has TuneIn Radio. That's an app you can download on your phone and get Noogaradio anywhere, anytime. Also, Shoutcast. And we have just gotten hooked up here on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. And on Facebook as well. Thank you for joining us on Facebook. And we are here to talk outdoors, getting outside, getting active with all the amazing amenities we have here in the Chattanooga area. I have a great guest here with me today. Someone actually taller than me, so I got to do some rearranging here. I'm not used to that. Dave, you're going to have to slouch. Dave Miller's joining me. What's your official title up there at Lookout Mountain Flight Park, Dave?
I manage the Aerotow program manager, Lookout Mountain Flight Park.
That sounds good. So we have the Aerotow manager, Lookout Mountain Flight Park, here to talk about hang gliding this evening. And this is going to be fun for me, Dave.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
How long has it been since you were actively in it?
I think my last flight, I pulled out my logbooks just the other day, and I'm trying to remember. I think my last flight was 2003-ish. So do the math real quick. Was it in 15 years?
Yeah.
No, but I was active flying for a good 12 years. And so it really doesn't seem like it's been that long.
But you flew something like over at Henson's before you came to...
Oh, yeah, that's where I learned. I actually have...
When you came back recently, you've flown at Henson's, right?
I did a tandem. Clark Harlow was out there. Those of you everybody knows Clark. Amazing pilot.
Oh, yeah. And, legend in the
yes.
local gliding scene.
A tandem flight with him, and I was kind of sharing with you before we got on the air that it was really strange because the tandem gliders are big floaters. I had a little speedster glider, so when he let me take over to land it, I was trying to land it like my little, and I pulled it off. But it's just weird because that's my biggest fear about getting back in the air is being kind of the muscle memory, I guess, of trying to fly like I was used to flying in that little speedster when I'll be in a slower, I guess you'd say, what would you call it, a lower, what do you call them? Be a novice or a...
Yeah, probably entry level, something entry level at first. But the performance is not what you're used to, but it comes back pretty quickly. Like the tandem gliders, like driving a gravel truck compared to the solo gliders, but you just give it what it needs. And
goodness, I am not worried. I know, like once I pop off a few flights on the training hill, I'm not worried about flying at all. I mean, like I said, I've had over 100 mountain flights. I flew cross country, flew high winds, did a little bit of aero towing. It's just that judging the final approach. That is the only thing, because I'm used to coming in hot, low, and hot and fast, and I know I can't do that in a slower, lower performing glider.
You don't want to be making steep turns close to the ground without a whole lot of speed. It's going to slip to the inside, and just baby steps. Take your time and set up a nice approach.
And see, I was one of those pilots that kind of was eat up with what they call intermediate syndrome. Familiar?
Yeah, familiar with that.
It got me in trouble a bit because, learning back, this is back in 88, 89, and living at a site, I actually lived over at Henson's. And I lived above the shop. I had a loft apartment above the shop, ran the shop, and flew any day it was good. Or any day somebody come get me and we'd head to Whitwell or wherever it was good. So I got a lot of airtime, got to fly a lot. So, of course, I got to do, it was easy for me to, you're flying that much, you can take off and go cross country or fly high winds and things like that. But when I left here to go back to Texas, and I wasn't around the activity so much, didn't have as close of access, we had to do weekend trips to Oklahoma to get a mountain flight. Things changed quickly because I was going a lot longer in between flights. And are you familiar with Buffalo Mountain?
I've heard of it. I've never been there.
It's definitely a hang four, which I was very much a hang four pilot. I just never stopped and took the test. I had the hours and the ratings or whatever, the write-offs and so forth. And so it was really funny when I went out there. They took me to the levees in the middle of Dallas. It's about 30-foot levees.
I've heard of those.
Popped off a couple flights there that you're good. So, But what would happen is I knew I'm a smart girl. I'm like, all right, Cindy, you can't fly like you're used to. Just get up there, float around, enjoy yourself, and then go land in the designated field. Well, at that point, I had been flying cross country out here. And so I would think that through and launch and get up there and start soaring. Well, there would go somebody taking off, and Greg Chastain comes to mind. And I'd see him taking off, and it's just like I wasn't myself anymore. All of a sudden, it's oh my gosh, and just my glider would turn and head that way. And the landing is a whole lot different. I'd heard the horror stories about landing in the West, the major thermals that blast you on the LZ. I'd heard the stories plenty, but I'd never experienced that until there was the time I had launched at Buffalo Mountain and, got up to altitude, saw Greg take off, just could not resist, like taking off, ended up landing in a field. Oh, I knew what to look. I knew to look for flat. I knew to look near a road, no power lines, no fences, something, all the things to look for, no cows, which that wasn't so hard. That was a problem here, but that wasn't a problem there. But it wasn't until I was on final approach that I noticed that the ground I thought was flat was actually dropping away from me.
Right.
And then it was the heat of the day, and we were in Oklahoma, and I hit one of those thermals that I had heard about on final. So I'm already losing the ground because I'm on final, and then I hit the thermal. So it was quick up, and bam, I was slammed down to the ground on the very opposite side of that thermal.
That's never fun.
No, it wasn't fun at all. And that was my wake-up call that, okay.
Right. But, all sides have their own personality. And even if you're, like you said, when you fly all the time like you were doing, you're really on top of your game, and you're flying with guys who are better than you and know everything that you can.
Trying to keep up with them.
You can follow them. Yeah. They're like, follow me. Do what I do.
We had radios, and it was all.
Yeah. So you have some like personal instruction, I guess, and then you go to other sites. A lot of times, it's kind of everybody for themselves, or they don't know you, and then they go, "Well, do what you're going to do."
I had people looking out for me, but when you're up, and that's what I really like our listener to hear, because I have so many people that want to hang glide, and hang gliding is awesome, and it is a relatively safe sport. It's all the pilot error, and
it's safer than driving. It's really the flying is safer than driving.
Yes.
From Atlanta to go there, statistically safer. Most hang gliding injuries are a twisted ankle or occasionally, a broken arm on the training hills, which even that is rare. But most hang gliding accidents aren't serious accidents. They're serious accidents are rare.
Exactly, and I shouldn't have been flying XC when I wasn't getting as much airtime as I was used to, and I was in an area that I wasn't very familiar with, like I was here. So I always like
that's how we learn,
because I don't like people to think, oh my gosh, that it's not like that. I was used to flying at an advanced level, and I wasn't getting as much airtime. But relatively, it's people always ask me what it's like, and I'm like, I hate to sound like a cliche, but it's a very mellow, free feeling.
Right.
It's not anything radical.
Usually when I get tandem passengers who are nervous about it, that I tell them if there is a scary part to the tandem flights, how we do them at Lookout Mountain. We've got the tow plane, an ultra light sport airplane that's attached with a 200-foot rope, and we're pulled away from the ground by the plane to altitude, and then we release from the plane and fly down. So I tell people, if there's a scary part, it's the takeoff, just because we're laying down and the ground's rushing by your face. But once you're 30 feet off the ground, it's pretty much like riding a bike in the sky most of the time.
Exactly.
It's pretty gentle. It's some people are like, "Woo, I want a big thrill ride." And I'm like, this may not be the right. You probably should go skydiving, because this is not that. It's like a little kid's roller coaster. I would
right, but it's still better than paragliding. Like being not am I saying the right thing? What's the thing where you're towed behind a boat that a lot of people
parasailing?
Parasailing. It's still better than parasailing.
I've never done it.
Yeah, it was boring.
I've seen the videos where people get dragged across the beach on their face and stuff.
It's way better. Way better. If you've ever done parasailing and you weren't too impressed with that, hang gliding is way better than parasailing.
Yeah, I've never been. I don't trust that.
No, I don't either. Because you are attached to something.
It looks kind of sketchy to me. So.
Well, that was my experience.
Where did you do that?
In what's the big island in Hawaii? It was the first time that I did it, but I've done it down in Padre as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I did it twice, and I'm like, okay, I've done that. That's
yeah, I've seen it a lot. I used to work on cruise ships and travel all around the Caribbean and stuff, and would see it, but I never had any interest in doing that.
Well, this was way before I was introduced to hang gliding,
and
it was really fun because recently, I had a birthday.
Happy birthday!
Yes, thank you. Well, I got to see you birthday week because
that's right. That's when you came.
Because it was 30 years ago, my birthday in '88, that I was introduced to hang gliding. So my birthday week, I went and did a tandem, and thank you guys so much. You were my tug pilot, or no, tug, is that how you say tow pilot?
Yep.
And Rich
Westmoreland
yes,
was the tandem pilot.
He was excellent. Thank you for.
He's out there flying right now. We both couldn't get away. So
nice.
He's still there.
Well, he did a great job. We thermaled some. He walked me through. I told him my concern was approach, and he really walked me through the approach and everything. And it's just odd though to be, when you're used to. I'm used to a speed bar like tucked right under his chest, and when you're tandem, you're like way up here, and it's just all odd. But it's still, I was just mainly, I wanted to get the lay of the land again. That was that served a great purpose to do that. So I loved getting my feet off the ground.
Right.
It was a good day. We got to thermal a little bit.
Baby steps to get back in. I mean, it should come back quickly, but
yeah.
Got to hit the basics again.
Well, you did a good job too. I think you dropped us off pretty good. Or does he decide when to unclip?
Yeah, he gets off when he wants.
Because we got the thermal and he unclipped, and we were able to snag that. So it was really.
There's a release at both ends of the rope, but normally the glider releases it. It's in because I take that rope back down to go get another.
I've done it. It's just been so long now. I remember because I did aero towing here and in Austin, Texas. I flew down there after I left here and did some aero towing. So, but the thing about, I didn't get to fly. I flew a lot of sites here, but I didn't fly a lot of sites. We did some towing in Austin, and I did some truck towing tandems. That terrifies me. The winch.
Never done it.
The winch thing. That is. I was fine because I was with a very, very good tandem, pilot that I trusted a lot. But I don't know if I'd want to do that. So I took the trips.
I've never really been around it, so I never had to make up my mind if I wanted to do it or not.
Well,
I've done so much of the aero towing.
Doing some winch towing off boats here briefly. I got to ride on some boats when I was learning, and I wasn't actually solo flying yet. But it's still that terrified me because you're starting off like right on the boat, and then it releases so quickly. I know you're at altitude quick, but aero towing, it was great. But it's I'll be eager to foot launch though because it had like over 100.
There's nothing like foot launch where it's one thing to get dragged up there by an airplane, so at least you're flying.
And the altitude's great.
But to launch under your own power and thermal up and fly around with no assistance is kind of the purest form of it. And
exactly.
There's plenty of people that I hate to call them snobs, but they just won't tow. They go, I can't get up under my own power and the way I manipulate conditions, and I don't want to do it.
Well, and I totally get that because that was part of the challenge to me. It's like because I had so much airtime at that point, just flying wasn't enough. I needed to challenge myself in that. So I totally get that. Another thing with you being an instructor that I really like talking about is the training hill experience. So many people, they're just like, you do that? You fly off that, mountain like that? How in the world do you ever get where you can do that? And I love sharing with them that you actually start on flat ground.
Right. It teach you the ground handling where you just pick a glider up on flat ground and show you how to pick one up and run with it fast enough to where you're not going to fly, but the glider will start to fly and it starts to lift off of your shoulders. So that's the launch technique. And then you move over onto I think it's a 40-foot hills, the small one. And you start part way up. So you get off the ground pretty quickly, but you're only a few inches off the ground at first just to get the feeling of being in the air and learn the the inputs to manipulate the glider, how to foot launch it and land on your feet. And then the bigger hill, I think, is 90 feet out there, where then you learn, you're far enough away from the ground to work on turns and flying fast before you start foot launching from Lookout Mountain.
Right. And after you've flown off a 90-foot hill long enough, you're pretty confident when you stand, especially if you've got a couple tandems under your belt as well.
Right. But, the big launch is 1,200 feet above the landing field, so it's still going to be intimidating, but it's a good kind of intimidating, I think.
It really wasn't for me, but I made sure I had plenty of time on the training hill. And the radial ramp, which Lookout Mountain,
right,
that really makes a big difference for beginners. Because if running down a hill instead of off of something is so much and less intimidating for a first mountain.
Well, the gradual curve there just leads to speeding up. You're running downhill instead of just trying to sprint for the end of that straight drop off like the old one was.
But I miss.
And the wind coming up is smoother too, instead of straight up there. It's kind of coming up that curved ramp, so it's a little bit more laminar flow of air right there.
It's a little nostalgia thing, though. I kind of miss the old ramp because it's like this how I remember it. What was really cool is when I was flying Lookout, it was probably 93, 94-ish. Hamlet to Play Small was pretty new back then. And there was a film crew there one day, and they were set up below launch, filming launches from beneath. And I get up there, and I potatoed a little bit. And but it wasn't, I've been watching, and I wanted my cycle. You know how it is.
Right.
You don't want to, and for those that are listening to potato, hang glider pilots refer to people that stay on launch a little long. They call that potatoing. And so I potatoed a little bit.
Lizarding.
And I was getting a little bit of, you know how it is. People are backing up behind you, but I wanted my cycle. And I ended up having a beautiful launch, had an awesome day of soaring. Some people sank out, but I waited for my cycle and didn't let them pressure me. So, but there was some people giving me a little bit of a hard time. Well, guess what? Guess who ended up on the Hamilton Place commercial?
Well, there you go.
I was like, well, there you go. It's
patience.
I waited for the right cycle. I had a beautiful launch and didn't let them rush me off there. So I ended up on the Hamilton Place. That was really fun being on that commercial for a while. I wish I still had that tape. That was fun to look at. Yeah.
You don't have that?
No, it was VHS. It got lost in one move or another. But it was fun to have that scene. Of course, that was at the point where that was after I'd had a really good flight at Pigeon and gotten 6,000 feet over the LZ. And it was like everybody was underneath trying to get. I was the girl on top. And of course, that was the day I was wearing cutoffs and a tank top, and it was absolutely freezing. So when they got the shot of me at launch, I got where after that I would pull these tacky. I'd wear shorts because it was hot, but I would pull these really tacky, ugly sweats over whatever I was wearing. So that wasn't pretty. I hated this.
But now there's all this fashion stuff, and everybody's wearing all this real slick.
Oh, it was a late 80s, early 90s.
Slick looking, warm, hang gliding garb now.
I did that back then. It wasn't long that if I made sure if I wasn't doing it good, I still looked good doing it. So I was all.
But you have to. You never know when it's going to be a great day. And, you're on the ground burning up. But you're like, I got to wear this because if I get to
exactly
6, 7, 8, 9 grand, it's going to be cold up there.
And it's funny because once you're climbing, it doesn't matter how cold it is. You won't leave.
Oh, you're not stopping.
I got to experience that firsthand. Well, Dave, we're down to about 30 seconds. We're going to take a break here for about just a few minutes. So I hope our listeners will tune back in. We are live streaming on Facebook. Thank you for joining us there. We're live streaming on YouTube as well. Thank you for joining us there. We'll keep those rolling as we take a little break here on, you are listening on Noogaradio Outdoors, Noogaradio 92.7 FM and 95.3 FM HD4.
The Tennessee Valley's News Talk leader, Noogaradio, Digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM.
3 minutes with station and
Chatham, Noogaradio, Digital FM 95.3 HD4, 92.7 FM's news.
Well, then another good time to tell. I've been authorized to
It was breaking the cars.
random flight, random
Sheriff's
flight
office says they
Oakland
arrested
is
Joseph
normally
Osterland after just 36 hours
$99
of investigating. Osterland
flight.
criminal charges of
But
9 counts of
you
auto
were
burglary,
called
3 counts
tomorrow
of $1,000.
and make the reservation. I've been authorized to do $99
for resource officers.
So,
wow.
TN Ready School
That's
will
amazing.
now
Flight
to decide whether
tomorrow,
going to Tennessee and out of Nashville. Tennessee General
398.
simply struck a deal Thursday that will ensure that this year's TN Ready test scores will be held against students, teachers, and public school districts.
$99
Tuesday, the State Education Department
That's
said that it was
better
the victim
than
of a
half
cyber
price.
attack that left students unable to submit their TN Ready test answers. The Sean Hannity Show weekday 3 to 6. Russell Stratton, the radio news talk 97 News.
Like, oh, I want
Now.
to do that. Oh, I want to do that.
Chattanooga Morning News with Russ
I'm
and
gonna
Val,
make sure
weekdays
tag,
from 6 to 9 a.m.
his,
on Noogaradio, 92.7
Dr.
FM.
Kelly Lance.
Dion Rose, Noogaradio News Talk 92.7 Sports Now. Some of the LA Seahawks got the
So,
best
tell us again, Dave, what's the deal on Kansas?
dominating performance.
It's only $99,
Tankers
but
returned in
come
on her
tomorrow,
best
and
performances of the
big
year,
color.
in which she gave up just
On
one hit and
Cindy's
struck out 9
Radio
batters.
Outdoor Show,
Silverdale, 6 straight
$99.
blocks at the bottom of the fifth.
And the weather's getting good. We
In
got
the
a
favor of
silhouette and
Tennessee
windy and
Balls,
cold
Fulmer
weather.
is in for the long haul. Fulmer is
I thought I was going to be underdressed because I kind of popped out so I could grab my jacket.
The NFL
Right.
released
Yeah,
the
one day.
2018
Get that number,
season. The Tennessee Titans will begin their
398,
season in Miami
35,
September
41,
19th. Dolphins
that
and
again,
the
here
following game, their home
706,
opener is the
398,
Houston Texans.
35.
The Atlanta Falcons appear in the
And usually there's a break
season
right now,
opener
but we're
week,
just going
Thursday
to
night,
roll with it in the
September
spring
16th,
season.
Philadelphia against
Say
the
the interview
Super Bowl
and just
champion
go with it.
Eagles. Their
There's
home
a-
opener is September
There's
16th
a
against the
clock, I
Carolina
can't press the
Panthers.
clock right
Dion
now. So
Rose,
let's just
Radio
continue
News Talk
talking, Dave,
97
about
Sports Now.
92.7
we're talking about
Noogaradio.
We just
That's where it
started a
all
family
begins.
and we're already planning for the future.
I got
believe
something
it's
else
helped
to
pave the
tell
way
you
to
that
keep our
we're
financial
doing out
future on
there
track.
that,
He's local. He knows us.
we're
He
working
cares
on
about
getting
what's
set up
important
for
to us. Don't put your future on hold. Call Michael Levy, 779-7755.
Hi, friends. I'm Mark Rabbit, and I'm running for registered deed. As a
ATV
successful business owner
with,
with 25 years
policy.
of real estate experience, I've been a frequent customer of the registrar's office. As state representative, I also know the importance of this office related to state law, and as the guardian of our most critical legal documents. Professionalism, public trust, and exceptional customer service will be my priorities as your registrar. I'm Mark Rabbit, and I'm asking for your vote.
Paid for by the committee to elect Mark Gravitt, Barry Watson, treasurer.
Do you hear that? That, my friend, is not what you're thinking. That is the new 2018 Indian Chieftain Dark Horse. Yeah, Indian. Indian motorcycle is more than a bike. It's an experience, an American icon. And Indian Motorcycle of Chattanooga is the only place you'll find their new 2018 line. Are you ready to ride? Join the club. Go to Indian Motorcycle of Chattanooga. Just look for the sign, 153 and Amicola. Indian Motorcycle, the true American original.
They're all under $10,000.
$10,000.
That's right. Powerful V8 heavy cars under $10,000 at Southern Fleet Sales in East Ridge. But you got to get there now for the best selection. These are retired cop cars. And man, are they fast. You want to look really cool. You want a fast car for under 10 grand. Then get the Southern Fleet Sales in East Ridge. It's not just a V8. It's a V8 heavy cop car. SouthernFleetSales.com. 3900 Ringgold Road, East Ridge.
Want a business phone system that gives you Outlook integration, Salesforce integration, smartphone integration? Why desk sets and expensive lines? Turn smartphones into a cohesive business system. Call Signal 619-1200. Signal Voice and Data 619-1200.
Hey guys, do you need a mini man break? We know how busy you are, but don't let your hairstyle suffer. Come see the stylist at Sport Clips at Hamilton Place and let them treat you to the MVP experience. A precision haircut, legendary hot steam towel, massaging shampoo, and relaxing neck and shoulder treatment, all while watching your favorite sports. No appointment needed. Sport Clips at Hamilton Place, located in front of Home Depot.
Got lots of sunshine and beautiful weather out there through your afternoon. High settling into the upper 60s and your 70s tonight. Clear chilly again, lows 40 to 43. Port
Great looking weather Saturday. Lots of sun. High 71 to 73. More clouds, a few late showers Sunday. Get ready for the 22nd Annual National Cornbread Festival, April 28th and 29th in South Pittsburgh, with headliners Exile and Doyle Lawson, 5 stages, crafts, live tours, and more. Visit nationalcornbread.com. And I'm Sorty Walsh, meteorologist, 924.
Noogaradio 92.7 wants you to see the Geico 500 in Talladega, April 29th. When you hear the engines roaring, text NASCAR to 33222. If your name is chosen, you'll receive tickets for all 3 races between the Camping World Truck Series, Xfinity Series, and the Monster Energy Cup races. In addition, you'll receive a 2-night stay at the Microtel Hotel and restaurant accommodations at 2 area restaurants. So make sure that you text NASCAR to 33222 and enter for your chance to roar into Talladega.
Hey, we're back. We're back on Noogaradio Outdoors.
Woo-hoo. We made it to the break. We made the divide.
This is Cindy here with Dave Miller, head of the, tell me again, what's your official title?
Manager of the Aerotow Tandem Program, Aerotowing Program at Lookout Mountain Flight Park.
Which is pretty awesome. And those that aren't familiar with hang gliding, there's traditional.
I drag people around the sky with an airplane.
That's exactly what he does.
Basically.
I got dragged around last week and it was awesome.
I know, it's nice.
It is nice. And what's really nice is when you learn to fly, you can foot launch off the 1,200-foot mountain, or you can tow up to about 2,000 feet and have maybe a little better odds of catching some lift and extending your flight.
Yes. I think I flew a couple of seasons in Florida doing that, and like in Florida, everything's flat, right? And the thermal's set up differently. So those guys are used to getting off like on 800 feet and being able to climb. But I think around here, I don't think these thermals develop till they're higher than the ridge level. And you'll see guys foot launching, sinking out. But the guys that tow up another 1,000 feet, are high enough to get in the developed thermal and climb. So it's good to do. It's good to do both. It's good to do both.
Yes, yeah. You have options. Options are always good, and it's crazy how the different regions, the different conditions and things. There's just over a 300-foot hill in Austin that some of the back in my day, some of the cross country flights were they launched from a 300 and something foot.
Wow!
Hill. And I was actually on that hill, setting up my glider, and it was blown out at about 45 miles an hour.
Wow.
I went in and set up because I was just determined that it was going to let up some, and it didn't. I ended up breaking down.
I lived in the Texas Panhandle for years, so I know it's a lot windier out there than it is around here. But
Exactly. So that.
And with the tow plane, we can, since the plane's making the airspeed, we can take off in pretty much any wind direction as long as it's not too much wind. But again, from foot launching off the mountain, you want it blowing in to some degree, so you've got positive airspeed over your wing when you go off. You don't want to blow from behind, which is put you in a hole.
Well, that's a really great advantage though on like an LNV day where you're not going to have the option of ridge soaring anyway. To be able to launch, to tow to greater altitude is a great advantage on those days.
Yep. And even though there's other sites here that face other directions, you may have to drive an hour or two to get to those.
And hike in a while to get to launch.
And here, you just pull your car up to the landing field and unhook your glider, and the plane takes you up, and you land right there at our manicured landing field, and swimming pool, and clubhouse, and bathhouse, and campground, and all your friends, and your ice chest, and
it's a great culture. It's a great culture out there. And
I tell people it's like summer camp for grown-ups, you know.
But I had my daughter's 11th birthday party there and got her a tandem for her birthday.
Nice.
I know, it was very nice. It was a very special birthday. Now my son's coming. I'm gonna get you to hook me up. And I never got his tandem for him. He's coming from Texas. They're planning a trip this summer, and he still holds that over me that I owe him a tandem flight because his sister got one.
As long as he's older than 10 years old and less than 250 pounds. We'll take him.
He qualifies. He's almost as tall as you, probably. He qualifies.
Good.
Well, that'll be fun because it really was fun. What was crazy is I was used to my family being a little concerned, watching me fly, and I just was always, I didn't get it because I knew, I knew it wasn't, what I was doing wasn't that dangerous because I was careful in doing what I was supposed to do. But I'll never forget when my 11-year-old daughter, I was perfectly fine. They launched, they were flying, and it was that world-class tandem pilot that had competed nationally and so forth. So I'm like, no problem. But then they did like a few little wingovers at altitude with my daughter's permission, and my heart went down into my stomach. And I thought, okay, I get it now. I get how people feel that care about me when they're watching.
But she was probably loving it up there.
She loved it because they're way high at altitude.
But to watch that from the ground, at my, I can see.
Yeah, when it's your 11-year-old daughter, it's all of a sudden I got the realization.
I think the insurance the youngest we've ever taken that I was around for, and I've been there for 19 years, was 4 years old, which I think is way too young. But she wanted to go. She was cool with it, and their kids don't seem to be afraid of the flying. It's like a game to them. But if a kid that small gets out of eye shot of mom and dad, with a stranger, all of a sudden it's, where's my mom and dad, and who's that? And that can be I think that's a little overwhelming. But the insurance had changed recently. I think 10 is the minimum age now.
That seems reasonable.
And
what about puppies? They can still so many people take their pets flying with them, which was always cool.
I haven't seen many dogs lately. I've never seen one air-towed, but
because we had a whole hang gliding community, over there at Henson's as well. And there were a lot of people that my buddy Cliff Whitney, he would take
my dogs would probably go if I got a harness made for them.
Yeah, they had a special little harness. It was really cool. Well, and something else really cool is happening out at Lookout Mountain Flight Park. Tell me about this ATV. Is that part of the training? I saw.
Well, it's kind of they're working the kinks out of it. It's been done, kind of got developed in Europe. It hasn't really, not so much it's similar to the
air towing.
The scooter tow, where you got the. I would take the tire off the back of a motorcycle and put a big reel on there and hit the throttle and start spinning the reel. And then there's a rope on it that goes to a pulley at the other end of the field, and they're pulling a hang glider, lifting them off the ground. But this is going to be done with an ATV, and the rope goes through the pulley, and the ATV is pulling the rope from behind, but it goes through two pulleys, so your instructor's like right behind you the whole time. And you can hear him giving you instructions and stuff. So that may turn out to be interesting. If you could see it would make more sense. It's kind of hard to describe.
I'm going to go, I'll have to go find that. I forget. I saw somebody's post about that, and I wasn't getting it then. I'm not totally understanding. But
that way, if you're working on landings or something, you're never more than about 10 or 15 feet off the ground. So you can, within 1,000 yards, you can practice 5 or 6 flare and landings of your glider. So that's getting the kinks worked out. That's going to be cool, I think.
Yeah, because a lot of times when you're learning, you do, even if you live nearby, you may go a week or two and you haven't had that many, and then if you can get those consistent flares.
So to do your landing, you got to break your glider down, go all the way back to the top of the mountain, set your glider up, fly down, and get one more chance. Where this will be a bunch of chances to work on the muscle memory to
exactly, yes.
Because that's what it all is. It's like riding a bike or anything else. You practice with training wheels. So you start taking them, you start lifting the training wheels up a little bit, and then they're off. So.
Exactly, because I'm worried about muscle memory. Like I said, with me, is I'm worried about, because I have been so conditioned to fly. I flew the same glider for so long. I'm gonna have to get a few more tandems, Dave, and then hit the hill and have my approaches down.
And with the aero too, we've had a lot in the last few years, I think, of guys who have been single engine pilots, had a plane or rented a plane or whatever, but a small single engine airplane to rent now is like, with fuel, is probably $150 an hour. It's just expensive to go fly for an afternoon.
Exactly.
So we're getting guys in their 30s and 40s and 50s and that old enough where they may not be able to complete the hill training, running down the hill, but they can still come out and learn to tow behind the tow plane because you start out in a prone position and you take off on the wheels. So, older people who have been around aviation who aren't as young as they used to be and not as in good physical shape can still come out and train and learn to fly hang gliders.
Yes, and it's awesome. I know a lot of power plane pilots that hang glide. We went and saw you perform at the Comedy Catch?
Comedy Catch.
Dave Miller is also a professional comedian.
That was my full-time job for 18 years. I traveled all around the country, cruise ships. I toured with Ron White for 2 years, blue-collar comedy tour guy. So I used to fly to work on a private jet when I did that.
Oh my, that sounds cool. That's a whole that's a whole nother show.
So
well, you're funny.
Thank you.
We really enjoyed it, but I had my buddy Walt with me, Walt Steele, and he's a power plane pilot.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's on a couple of shared plane programs.
Right.
But he learned to hang glide. I went and hung out there with them, and it's like I can't hang out too much because I do want to fly.
Right.
It's weird. You miss all your friends, but you get there and you're like, this makes me want to fly more. But I'm going to keep showing up so that
we'll have to talk later. I gotta go right now.
Exactly. Now I'm going to keep showing up because if I hear myself talk about something long enough, I'll get sick of hearing myself and I'll do it. So I'm trying to just wear myself out about it. So I'll just go do it because I want to experience that again. I miss it. I mean, it's not just the hang gliding, the cool flying that I miss. It's the camaraderie.
Right.
And that's a lot what we talk about on Noogaradio Outdoors is what people don't understand about these outdoor culture. You're getting exercise, you're doing something healthy, you're being active, but there's a whole culture to the outdoor folks that what I miss the most is the end of the day around the bonfire, the There I Was stories.
Right.
I miss that just as much as creating the There I Was story, but in the flight.
Oh yeah, and we have a big clubhouse and big parties with lots of people, and these guys travel together. A bunch of them. There was just a big meet in Florida last week, and a bunch of people travel to that, or they go down to Mexico every year and fly down there and travel the Western U.S. So it's a very social deal. It's fun to fly, but that's by yourself. At the end of the day, it is hanging around with your friends and comparing stories, and
it's awesome. I miss that as much as the flying, and I miss the people that we have we're how do you say, an outside destination city,
right?
And I recognized that when I got here 30 years ago for hang gliding because I was meeting people from all over the world that were coming to fly here in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
The last 10 years, Chattanooga was Outside Magazine's top outdoor city, which they came to Lookout Mountain, and I was on their website for a while, took them up on a tandem flight. So we were on Outside Magazine's when Chattanooga won.
Twice they made the top, and I think they only let you do it so often. So we'll have to wait till we.
There's so much to do here, and the weather is relatively in the wintertime, it's cool, but it's not that insane cold that you get up north. So year round, you can, there's every sport you can do here year round. The kayaking, the biking, the climbing, the flying, caving, whatever you're into, it's nearby Chattanooga.
Exactly.
It's close.
I hang glided. I would hang glide in the winter. I looked up funny because I had so many layers on. And I had those little heat pocket things in the toe of my boots. But I could get about an hour in before
I don't do it that much anymore in the winter. If I'm at work and I have to do it, I do. But individually, I don't fly every day in the tandem gliders. I don't fly solo that much anymore. But when I do it in the summer. I can do it shorts, T-shirt. I'm old. I don't like cold anymore.
I was very hungry for airtime when I was flying in the winter. I didn't want to go too long without flying, and just, you know how it is when you're new. I was probably just a couple of years into flying at that point, and looking for any and every opportunity to get in the air.
Good ridge soaring days in the winter because the cold front's coming, from the northwest,
yes,
right into the face of the
mountain.
mountain.
When we moved over here, we lived in St. Elmo, so it was just a quick little jog up the mountain. Lookout Mountain Flight Park is located in Rising Fawn, Georgia, correct? It's that's the mailbox address is, but it's really, if you're driving down the interstate, you get to the Trenton exit and look up to the mountain. That's the closest place to the launch. It's there, and I know it's about 12 miles from launch to the point by hang glider.
Yes,
I did that quite a bit, flying to the point and back. That was a great
beautiful flight.
Enjoyed that a lot. So tell me, Dave, you're a comedian, and when did you get introduced to hang gliding?
I started flying, I was living in Atlanta. I was married then, and been doing the comedy thing, traveling all the time. I saw it in a magazine in '92, and I was working at the Comedy Catch, and I went out there for a morning lesson with Christian Thorson. You remember Christian Thorson, who ran
with him a couple weekends ago?
Yeah, who ran Lookout Mountain Flight Park for years and years and years and years, forever. He had just got back from a flying trip that he took a bunch of people to Germany to go fly, and they had just got back, and I think it was Halloween morning, because they were talking about the big Halloween party out there, and I was working at the club, so I couldn't go. Like, oh, you got to come to this party. I'm like, can't, got to work, but did that with him, a morning lesson, and loved it. And a lot of times going out or coming back from comedy gigs is through Chattanooga to get to Atlanta, so I would stop and fly. That went on a couple of years, and then when I got divorced, I got to live anywhere because I worked on the road all the time, and I didn't care for Atlanta. Too big. I'm from a little bitty town, so it's like, well, I'm not staying there. I guess I'll just go rent a cabin and look out and throw my stuff in there and see what happens. And
there you go.
I thought I was going to work there one summer, and this is like my 19th year.
Oh man!
So
it was a magic year for me, getting to live at a hang gliding site. Yeah. Have that at my disposal every single day. We had traveled out here in the late '80s because the economy tanked in Texas. We were actually doing work in Cartersville, and we were coming up here on the weekends. I'd gotten my birthday flight and so forth like that. So it was when I decided to learn, I was going to be coming up here on weekends to learn. And when they offered me the position at the shop and to be able to train there while I was working the shop, and it was an absolute no-brainer.
Perfect.
My ex was like, go. So it wasn't long that, he was able to, when that job ended, he was able to get a job here, and we just totally relocated here for 10 years, ended up having both our babies here, and buying our first home in St. Elmo. So we didn't see that coming. We thought we were going to travel around about a year and head back to Texas. So it was a great introduction to the sport.
Well, if you're living right there, you get the chance to fly. I mean, because it's a little bit weather dependent.
Yes.
Hey, it's good. I'm here. I can go. Rather than, we may make a trip up, and in the week you decide to come, it may not be conducive to flying. But if you're there every day, that really expedites the process. The more days you can be there.
So how do you manage that with scheduling people to fly? I imagine you have to do about maybe a 2-day notice, or how do you coordinate that weather-wise? I guess as the summer rolls around, it's not as challenging.
It's not. Spring is a bit unpredictable, but a lot of people, you can either sign up on the website, you can get online now and pick your date, and people may pick them months in advance, but as time gets closer, I don't really, any weather forecast more than 48 hours out is not
very dependable.
Yeah, it's pretty iffy, but once you get within about 48 hours and you can kind of see if it's what it's going to be, we try and call people and let them know. I'll say, well, like today, this morning, it was real windy, and I'd called them yesterday and said, morning's not going to happen. This afternoon's 50-50 chance if you Because some people travel, you know, they're coming from Atlanta or Knoxville or further. You know, 50-50 chance if you want to drive down from drive up from Birmingham or wherever, Charlotte, wherever you're coming, for a 50-50 chance, and come on. And then that way they can make up their mind. I'll reschedule on a day I got a better shot at it. But as the summer gets closer, and the temperature changes between day and night aren't so big, it's less wind and less rain and more predictable.
Well, remind us again about this awesome special that you're offering on tandems at Lookout Mountain Flight Park for listening to Noogaradio Outdoors, listening to me and Dave here on Noogaradio Outdoors.
Right. We sell two heights of tandem flights, either a 1,500 feet of altitude or 3,000 feet of altitude, and the 1,500 is normally $199 for 1,500 feet flight, tandem flight. But if you call Lookout Mountain Flight Park tomorrow at 706-398-3541 and tell them you heard the Dave Miller special on Cindy's show on Noogaradio Outdoors, you get that flight for $99.
That number again, folks, 706-398-3541. What a deal. I really encourage you to experience.
And we have still cameras and video cameras mounted on the glider, so we can shoot pictures. I think the pictures are 25, but it takes a picture every 10 seconds the whole time you're gone. So you're going to have 100 pictures when you get on the ground.
Yes, it was amazing. I didn't expect that. I didn't realize that was part of the package. And I have a ton of pictures, and they're very cool shots that document your free flight.
Yeah, so that's a great deal. And once the kids get out of school, we're packed all the time. So we don't have any summer deals usually. But right now, right when it's starting to get good, it's like, okay, here we go. Here's the deal. If you live in Chattanooga, you should be flying hang gliders anyway. This is a great site. People come from all around the world to fly at this site, and we don't have a whole lot of we don't get a lot of Chattanooga people that come out to do the tandem flights, which is odd.
Well, I'll definitely be encouraging that. I tell you, it's there's a lot of folks that say they want to, and we just got to turn that want to into actually getting to do that. And this awesome $99 special is
and they get to fly it too on a 1,500 foot tandem flight. The tandem pilot will fly the glider while it's being towed up by the plane. That's a little bit more challenging, but before you go, he's going to give you a little flying, hook you in the glider, give you a little flying lesson on the ground. After you release from the plane, you're going to get to fly it around on the way down. It's not hard. Talk you through it. No problem. So you will fly a hang glider. You'll be the pilot in command for a time on that flight, and then to see if that's something you want to take up.
That's it, folks. We're out of time. It went by way too fast. Thanks for hanging the whole hour with me.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
I look forward to having you back here on
Paisley.
That's a wrap.
TN Ready scores won't count due to the cyber attack. According to the Tennessee and out of Nashville, Tennessee General Assembly struck a deal Thursday that will ensure that this year's TN Ready test scores won't be held against students, teachers, and public school districts. On Tuesday, the state education department said that it was the victim of a cyber attack that left students unable to submit their TN Ready test answers. Bradley County deputies arrested a 19-year-old man they say was breaking into cars throughout the community. The Bradley County Sheriff's Office says they arrested Joseph Lee Osterland after just 36 hours of investigating. Osterland faces criminal charges of 9 counts of